Hello, product people. Welcome to the Product for Product podcast, hosted by Matt Green, data advocate and product manager, and Moshe Mikanovsky, product leader and author. Our goal is to serve the product community by helping you find products that can help make your work in product management easier. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Product for Product podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. On today's episode, Moshe and I are excited to continue our startup series with a conversation with Matan Kleyman, co-founder and CEO of Hunch. So let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Matan.
Hey guys, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you on the show. Hey, Moshe.
Hey Matt, hey Matan, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you and to learn what you're doing at Hunch. And this is going to be an international show, not America versus Canada. So we're all good today.
We are. We've gone abroad again, so this is good.
You can't count it to one side. Yeah, no. It's neutral.
We'll split it down the middle.
Even though with my roots, I may be able to.
Moshe is playing it well.
He is. He's a gamesman.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us a bit about yourself, Matan, and your background. And after that, we'll start talking about Hunch and what you're building.
Yeah, sure. So Matan, I'm based in Israel, currently in Tel Aviv, leading Hunch as the co-founder and CEO for the last 7 months, approximately. I come from technical background, didn't start like as a product manager or something like that, more like data scientist for a few years and then engineer. And then I found out that I really prefer to be attracted to the product and to the users and customers and so on. And engineering is just the way to get it. So started being more like a product lead at several startups, and then decided that I have this addiction of working too hard, and then decided to start up a company. It's been a hell of a ride.
It's even harder.
Love it. Yeah. On the day-to-day, I really love music, playing saxophone, playing tennis, but not a lot of time left rather than working on Hunch, I guess.
Yeah, I can tell you that one of the reasons my wife didn't want to go back to Israel is because she said that she would never see me. I would be at work all the time. People are a bit addicted to work, especially if they are in a startup. They have no choice, really.
That sounds like the United States. We talked about that before, Michelle.
Canada is the most relaxing place of all three of them. Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess Tel Aviv is more like US, I guess.
Yeah.
People work hard here.
Work hard, that's all.
Amazing. And you're also a podcaster.
Yeah, actually, it's really nice to be on the other side of the mic. Usually we have a podcast in Hebrew, unfortunately, but talking for product managers about how they can introduce AI features and build AI products easily, which means that we bring in like some practitioner, product manager, or some director of product that have successfully introduced AI into their product, and they can share like the full story in the clearest way possible without like telling that everything is pink and beautiful, but rather telling all the failures and hard, tough learned lessons. So yeah, it's also part of the day-to-day.
Yeah, so it's good to have you also in English. And who knows, maybe one day you will do some episodes in English for the rest of us to enjoy.
I'm gonna go look up an AI translator. After
I
this.
think that the longest part of starting this podcast was to debate whether it's going to be in Hebrew or English. Yeah, but the locality won at that time.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Let's talk now about Hunch. What is Hunch? What's the idea behind it? And then, how does it help product managers?
Yeah, sure. So Hunch's story is super simple. We're basically providing product managers the fastest way possible to query their data and build actionable data apps on top of it. As a product builder for a decade, working at several, both like enterprise and startups, it always felt that companies invest tons of effort and budget into collecting data, whether it's like product usage and then ETLs of transforming and aggregating this data, pouring it into data warehouses and databases and so on. And at the end, there is like only this senior analyst or senior data engineer that actually knows what the hell goes on in like this whole data modeling that the company has built over the years. And when the AI wave like hit us, we felt that we must bring this autonomy that AI brings to people into the data world. And then it began from like simply helping people query the data for like churn insights, what is their retention, helping them find the habit moment of their product. They just released the feature and they want to know the feature adoption and so on. And then taking it like one step further and really building data apps on top of it, which was previously just like a thing that only like data engineers and software engineers could build. And this resulted in like most of the ad hoc questions that product people, what are they doing all day, right? We're like walking in the office, asking ourselves questions, come with hunches of, I think these users are doing that because of X and Y, and if we do Z, it's going to help them. But not all companies have these analysts, right, like at their pocket, and technical people that could take each and every ad hoc question and transform it into a like complete answer. And we found out that giving this autonomy to product people is something the market really, really wants. So bottom line, it's like imagine Lovable, which you're building prototypes and I don't know, landing websites. So in Hunch, it's natively connected to your data warehouses, databases, analytics tools, and you build data apps on top.
Yeah. So you already explained there, I think, the source of the name Hunch, where Hunch is coming from. And
Yeah.
it's so true. I always had that issue with not being able to find the data on my own. And then waiting in the pipeline for the either one engineer or a BI. Even though some places I worked, we had a BI team, they had their own backlog and their own stakeholders, and their own things that we had to wait for information. As simple as that. So this is really democratizing access to the data.
Yeah, definitely. Like we did not invent anything. Like there was a previous wave of BI tools and self-service analytics and so on. Like companies like Tableau and Looker were acquired for like billions of dollars. I think what now opened in the market is basically a very, very strong of why now, which is like take an average product guy, they probably gonna open a BI tool or I don't know, like Mixpanel or Amplitude, and it's gonna take them half a day to build a chart or a dashboard. And the cost effectiveness of using these tools on the day-to-day of a product person, like when I'm acting as a product, I'm probably the most busy person in the company because I need to tell engineers what to do. I need to think about strategy and product roadmap and aligning executives and so on. And the last thing that I have time for is like dealing with very, very powerful and strong tools, but that kind of really hard to use. And we just want people to come with a hunch and get an answer. That's it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. I was looking at your site on your blog, and you have a lot of different comparisons. So you looked at Looker, Pendo, Mixpanel. Like, how do you like over here in the US, we have, Microsoft is in a lot of enterprise companies. It's in a lot of companies. A lot of people use it because it's already baked into, Power BI is already baked into the product or Microsoft offering. So how do you differentiate yourself and how do you look to disrupt that market with Hunch?
Yeah, that's a great question. Disclaimer, most of these comparisons were generated by AI. I don't have the time to fully write them all, but I reviewed them.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think there are two main differentiators. First is we optimize for speed. Unlike many other tools that were built in this area, which were optimized for like maybe flexibility or like depth of product, I would say. And second is autonomy. we want this, like we want Hunch to really be the first tool that like anybody could use. Of course, with the right context and understanding and the ability of asking the right questions. We also help with that, by the way, but like giving the autonomy for people that up until now it was too hard for them to use BI tools. And this is like translated and tied all over the product, these two concepts. Whether it's like, if we talk about autonomy, so we give you the ability to run, like to come with a hunch you want to test, and you don't need to code. You don't need to even understand what tables you need to query because we bootstrap the context of your data and help you find out the right data, whether it's knowing how to build the right dashboard, like when you ask for a data app for your account overview, because before every meeting with an account, you want to know how they use your product. We give you out of the box like the practice of the best playbook for preparing for a meeting through product usage. So it's really tied all over the product, I would say. This is like compared to the big names like the BI tools, which is also, by the way, these two benefits that we prioritize means that we wait with the enterprise market. Like we nowadays don't sell to enterprises,
Right.
because we don't have the policies, the RBAC, security, like isolation of data access. Like there are tons, and like these products are crazy. There is a reason that it's really a hard market like to occupy in the enterprise. But if you think about any SaaS company, like whether it's 15 people, 50 people, or 250, they probably have these databases. Maybe they have a centralized data team, but it's still small. And you don't want, especially nowadays, like for every new need to hire this next person. So before you try to hire your next analyst, you try to connect an MCP of Postgres, for example, to Cursor or to Claude, right? Because you think to yourself, well, I have lots of questions. Let's first try to find a solution for that. And then when you feel that these off-the-shelf kind of generic tools are not good enough, you start for looking for terms like, well, maybe I need kind of like a AI product analyst or doing data analysis using AI. And then you find out there is a new market, and we're not alone. We have tons of competition that are building like this disruption using AI native products from the ground up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing you said also was that you want everyone to be able to use it. And I'm thinking about not just the PMs on the team, but also designers and engineers. And engineers have a tendency to try to solve problems on their own and to try to
Yeah,
build it
definitely.
on their own. But if there is a tool that can help them with that and they can focus on their core product that they have to develop versus everything around it. And this is really around it because you're not building this analytics. Well, in some cases, you build them for the purpose of the product itself, but many times you build them for the purpose of really understanding what is the right hunch, what is not the right hunch, and what is the right opportunity or the wrong opportunity and stuff like that. And that's empowerment in the hands of engineers if we give them to them, but they have to also kind of adjust to this new way of working.
Yeah. I would start with like I'm saying yes to myself. You used hunch twice in your sentence, which is great. But
I'm learning.
yeah, I think
I'm learning fast.
definitely.
Catchy.
I think engineers are kind of divided into two. There are these engineers that just want to build and build for the matter of like coding, I would
Yeah.
say, and they get
Yes.
excited. I don't know, the the craft. And there are these engineers who sit the whole day like on session replays and events and analytics and so on. I think like maybe even Post-Hog, which is in the product analytics space, is kind of an example of a company that have built a product of analytics for product engineers, which are
Yeah.
engineers. But
Yeah.
this is the other kind of people.
Yeah.
But I think that like sometimes users that come to us, it came from an engineer that tried to solve the issue for the product or for the customer success or for the even for the CEO or CTO and so on. And then they like tried to find a tool that will make these requests like get rid of them, I would say in a kind words. But naturally, I would say that our expansion in accounts is usually to the more customer-facing roles. So it starts from the product managers, then it moves like to account managers if it's like more B2B, or if it's B2C, it's maybe the product marketing. And then sometimes the CEO wants like direct access to data and want to play around with it. So this is also a very natural expansion that happens. Um, I would say that I wouldn't sell it to engineers at first hand because they're like trying to build everything by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
But it could be definitely used by
yeah,
them. So I can definitely see.
100%.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
definitely.
like I myself, well, I'm not coding the product because I don't have time for it, but I'm sometimes I use it even for debugging. Like we connected our Logfire, which is like an kind of an open telemetry tool for logs and tracing and so on. And instead of like digging into logs and trying to find out what exceptions we had and like when they happen and what kind of users had them and so on, I just connected these logs as a data source.
Yeah.
And suddenly you can analyze data sources that are logs and correlate it to events from the product, which was really nice. And I
Yeah.
think a use case that engineers would love to try out.
Yeah. So tell us a bit how it works. On one hand, I assume there is some integrations with all the data source. And then on the other hand, there is simple query interface, or there is more than that?
So you want the technical kind of aspect or more the like
Um,
the
I,
product?
I I just want to give our audience the understanding even without seeing it. So,
Yeah.
from product managers, it doesn't have to go very technical, but more from like what's their journey with the product.
Yeah, 100%. So let's like imagine a beautiful onboarding, 3 steps. No, I'm joking. You just sign up to Hunch and then you can connect your data sources with which are mainly 3 categories. It's the data warehouses, Snowflake, BigQuery, Redshift, and so on. It's databases, where they're like Postgres, Mongo, stuff like this, and analytics tools, Google Analytics, Mixpanel, Amplitude, Postdog, and so on. Once you connect them, we bootstrap like a crazy context and understanding of what data you have, what tables, what columns, how things are interconnected, what entities you got, how you call users, what are your features, and so on. And then you come to a ChatGPT-like interface, which for a second gonna make you feel like it's ChatGPT, but the outputs are not like ChatGPT. So you put in either like a prompt from one of our playbooks. Which playbook is basically a use case. So if you don't yet know how to find a habit moment of your product or what is the best way to look on a feature adoption dashboard, you can pick up one of these templates. And when you run it, 2 things happen. So first, Hunch generates code that queries your data, aggregates it, researches for data that it couldn't find, and so on. And this is an agentic process because it's not like a text to SQL one shot and it's done, because reality doesn't look like this. Environments of data are complex, hundreds of tables, and so on. And the output is or a dashboard, like a static dashboard, which you can see just the results based on the prompt that you've put. If you are a bit technical, you can see behind the scenes, like the code, the multiple steps that were ran. And if you want this to be a long-living data app, you can just say, okay, convert it to a data app, and then you get a full stack app that could took like, I don't know, days or weeks for your data people to build. which you can customize as much as you want. You can add filters like per account, per other dimensions. You can put even a button of like one use case that I had is like I want to generate a personalized email for every user that did not say like log in to the product at the 14 days, last 14 days. So you get your top users that did not log in. You click generate, you get a personalized email. We're gonna also add integrations to the actions that you can do. So you can even click and send an email through loops or through your Gmail client and so on. You can export it to a slides that you can share in your like next meeting. You can convert it to a mail you can send to your team, to your executives, and so on. And this is like an iterative process because the thing that we believe that dashboards were static because it was hard and tough and took time to build, but we want you to come back and like when you code an app on Lovable or I don't know, Bolt and so on, you always come back and make iterations. Same thing is with data apps. You have a new use case, you have like some dimension that you didn't look at, you want to add another view that when you click on the account, it shows you like at what page it dropped and so on. So you can come back, write what you wanna like change in this data app, and it just works for you. Then you can share this data app with your team for them to log in as well. And you can schedule the analysis. Lots of use cases are like recurring. You want to get a report daily, weekly, monthly, and so on. And unlike other tools where you just get the numbers, like imagine you schedule a report, right? So you get the numbers of last week, but you now need to make the deducing step of like understanding what have changed, right? When you schedule an analysis with Hunch, it tells you when you get the numbers, look, there is a drop here. It might be related to XYZ, or you might pay attention to this metric. And it's not like a hard-coded rule that you said, well, if the churn rate, like, I don't know, if the ARR of this day fell like twice, then alert me. It's more flexible. It's like, if an analyst would look at your data, where would it put the right or green flags? So this is now possible because these agents imitate how we work. I think that's the main user journey. Yeah.
Does it produce charts and graphs as well in there? So the charts and graphs are out of the box as well. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what I love. I love about that because it's not based on the way you explain it. It doesn't give you like lengthy, 4 to 10 pages text to read. It actually give you already the results that you're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's funny. Like sometimes people use the term dashboard and forget where it came from. Like dashboard is like when you drive in a car, you want to know the speed, how much fuel it got, the heat of the engine, and maybe some bulbs that just appear when something went wrong.
So you can make decisions from that. Yeah, of course.
Because our human mind can't get too much signals at once. It should be gradual.
Yeah.
And when you're building apps, even like just any app, any classical app, as a product manager, you think about the UX and you want to make it gradual exposure. You don't want to put all the features in front of the user's face and like let them decide what they should look on. So same thing here, I guess.
Yeah. And not only that, we talked in previous episodes as well about the and I'm sorry for the audience for mentioning it every episode almost about the pattern, the UX pattern that ChatGPT created in the world, and everyone is trying to adopt, where you have a prompt, and the longer the prompt, the better your result is going to be, and then you have lengthy documents coming out of that you have to read, and it's like it's not the right approach for every product, and I've actually most UXs before didn't have this approach because it was the wrong approach for most products. So it's okay to ask a question, but to give the results in a lengthy document, we're not in a university here that we have to read academic articles. We want the results right away and to do something with that. So the UX as a dashboard makes so much more sense than something else. And I really like that you're taking it that um, next step to create an app from that. And I assume that on an ongoing basis, you can also, I don't know if it's already there or it's in the backlog, but you can also update the app with new things that people are creating and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's on the roadmap and lots of work, but exciting
Yeah,
ones.
I didn't want to assume it's already there, but I know this probably the next step. Once you create something, then it becomes okay. So how can I make it even better, right?
Yeah, and I would even add that, like, I remember this moment clearly. Like, I had an aha moment of sitting on a shared session with a CEO of like a kind of high-tech bank here in Israel, and he told me, like, and it was 2 months ago. He put in a prompt, and then he got the response, and the response was long. Like, it was hard to read, and not because the content wasn't interesting, but because the way it was articulated. And then he told me, look at this. He opened back the prompt, added like just a small sentence of return me a output based of how like data storytelling books tell stories of data. And he mentioned like two very famous books that I don't recall right now. And even like from this super small modification, the output of the chat, like of Hunch, was so much easier to grasp. The moment afterwards, we like went to the system prompt of our product and like change it to be
Always
something
do.
accordingly.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. And great to hear you're doing it with your clients and seeing these insights and being close to the clients because that's always great to hear stories like that.
Sometimes you feel you can know everything from like analytics and session recordings, but there is a limit. You always need to see the people and
Absolutely.
sit near
Absolutely.
them.
You mentioned the word roadmap, and so it looks like you're building in the open, Matan. You actually have the roadmap published on your site. I think that's pretty cool. It's obviously transparent. It obviously shows things you've completed and things that are coming up for your clients. So, like, what motivated you to do that? Because we don't see that for everybody.
Yeah, I'm super happy that you mentioned it.
Yeah,
Happy that you liked it. I don't know, just like our belief of how good products, like it increases our chances of the product to be built because to be built good, I mean, because
hmm
you can see it and then come back with the feedback of say like, oh man, no, I didn't see this feature. You must build that thing, or like doubling down on saying you're on the right track.
right.
And another point, which is I think even more important, specifically in our industry, is that when you're building a data product, you rely on trust. Like nobody is gonna buy a product that tells you the wrong numbers. And it's super flaky, like smallest issue, smallest like query error and so on. People like, no, I can't trust it because I'm not gonna be 100% with my eyes on day all day long, like on validating the results. And I think small things like sharing your roadmap, telling things like publicly helps increase this trust. Like maybe not directly, but
Mhm.
it builds something around it.
For sure. And it helps
Yeah.
build that community as well. You allow the voting as people share common wants and needs and
Absolutely.
Definitely, even though I would say that we haven't figured out yet how to like bootstrap this community. We have a Slack community, but nobody gets in.
yeah.
So
That's
maybe
a
we
very
should be the
hard
first
that's a
ones
very
that
hard thing.
like the
I've seen it as
listeners.
a challenge. I've seen it
Yeah.
as a challenge with other startups for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this because it's kind of related to this, but it's also related to the sources of data that you are connecting into the product. Are they only quantitatives, or are they also qualitatives? Because the
Wow.
analytics
Yeah.
usually is a quantitative, And the qualitative data, we just talked about that, how important it is to have it. But those are questions that or those are a source of data that people can also get a lot of insights and again, using hunch, the hunch word, the keyword here to see whether they're on the right track or not.
Yeah, that's a great question, and we were wondering like when to support unstructured, like I call it unstructured data, which is like,
Hmm.
I don't know, your feedback surveys, your meeting notes, transcripts, and so on. I assume that's what you mentioned by like qualitative.
Yeah,
Uh,
interviews, whatever. Yeah,
yeah, interviews and
exactly.
so on.
Hmm.
So our first class citizen in the product is like the structured data, the quantitative, the databases, the tables, this stuff. And we recently added support for you can just put in your OpenAI key or Claude and Bedrock and so on. And then if you have like interviews or unstructured data, you can upload it as a CSV or connect your Google Drive. And then when you ask a question like, what feature request topic was mostly mentioned in my last interviews? And then you get a distribution of all the feature request topics, the urgency that they were mentioned, and so on, which is really nice. But I would say like it's like there are tools that are mainly specified directly like for analyzing this customer voice. So these are more structured for like a user journey that is more structured. You put in your interviews, you get this out of the box dashboard of all the feature requests and so on. At Hunch, it's more if it's part of what is needed to answer your hunch, we can agentically analyze your unstructured data as well, and it's going to work fine.
Hmm.
I hope it answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, while I was asking the question and while listening to your answer, it's definitely, I'm thinking also about products that are coming from that, perspective. We talked in the past a lot. We had a series about session replays and about not session replay, sorry, about testing, user testing, and with user testing products, this is what they evolved to, creating these structured ways to show what people are looking for. But it does make sense to me to combine all of them together. Part of it is because, the qualitative data usually, sorry, I'm always confusing between the two. So with
Yeah.
quantitative data, usually it's almost about the past, where with qualitative is about the future. So the past is like what is already there, where are they getting stuck, what are they using, what are they not using. And with the qualitative is about the future, meaning like this is what we want, this is what we need. And I think you cannot separate between the two. You have to have both because the past might not work or what you did in the past might not work because there are things that are not there that you have to develop in the future. And the reasons for some of the requests that they have for the future is because of the things that happened in the past. So they're always connected together. So to me, a full answer will be from both of them.
100%. I really loved how you articulated the future and the past thing. Yeah, like think of an average like flow of me working as a PM. I'm looking at a session recording or having an interview, and then some user pops up a thing that sparks my mind. And then I go back to the data to validate how it was presented if I have the events and so on, which shows the past thing, but like I had the vision of doing the future thing from the qualitative data. Yeah, we're planning to introduce uh, more and more support to the unstructured data. I think it's just like another challenge, I would
Yeah.
say, and complexity that is introduced to the product.
Of course. I mean, maybe all it is, and I'm not trying to simplify, simplify it
Yeah,
is.
just you throw it in and that's it.
Exactly, exactly. No, maybe all it is the same way that you have already integrations with all the data sources, the quantitative data sources, then it's integration with the qualitative data sources, and those are not just like transcriptions or videos, but those systems that we talked about for user testing and for interviews that are already doing that, and some companies already use them. Now, if someone is not using them, then of course, you have to grab it from somewhere. And that's probably the simplest one is to, like you say, in CSVs or Google Drive or whatever it is, wherever they are. But that's really interesting, and maybe even integrating with their agents because they already probably build agents to summarize and create models for their data, and then just bring it over to yours. But I'm not trying to solutionize here or anything, but it's just an interesting.
You're gonna see this feature in the roadmap in the
Yeah.
ideas section, I guess.
There you go. Straight back to the
Very
website.
interesting.
Wait. No, that's very cool. If you follow, some of the progress of our episodes, a year ago, probably still I was quite anti-AI. These days I'm much more. Matt is smiling over here.
He's coming over to our side. So surely.
No, listen, it might take me some time. I'm not an early adopter, but that's okay because for me it's all about trust. And you mentioned trust before, Matan. And I think this is so important with data. Absolutely. Maybe that would be maybe my next question. How do you make the trust? How do you get people really to trust it? Like if I'm thinking about, ChatGPT versus other models, I don't use ChatGPT because it doesn't give me the sources. It doesn't cite things. I only use models that cite things, so then I can go and check it on my own. Even though lately I saw myself, not doing it as much as I should be. So probably I'm trusting it more than I used to.
Yeah.
So what do you do with Hunch and the data that you're creating to get people to really trust it?
Wow, that's a huge topic, but I'm really happy to break it down.
Mhm.
So I would start like with the guidelines, the principles that we set upon before like figuring out how we make people feel distrust. So the first one was that we prefer 70 or 80% accuracy, but 100% visibility
Mm.
rather than 99% accuracy and like 80% visibility, which means that every single thing that our system internally tries to figure out and does during the process of the coding and the generating of the dashboard and the reports and how it bootstraps the context and understanding of the data, it's all fully transparent to the user. That's the first thing. Second is, I think, when you say, okay, I have 80% accuracy out of the box and you have 100% visibility, the next question is how you take this 80% accuracy and make it 90%, right?
Mhm.
And here comes, I think I wouldn't like tell something new to anybody, but like the whole topic of context engineering. The only way to make Hunch work good is by providing it the right context for the hunch that it tries to solve, right? And it doesn't matter if we use OpenAI GPT-5, Claude 4 Sonnet, or I don't know, like O20 in a few years. And when we expose context engineering, we decided to expose it to the user, which means that we have like the product is super simple. There is one tab of new chat, second tab like of integrations, third tab of context management. So it captures kind of like 30% of the product, let's say. And what users do in this context management is they are building their own like directories of knowledge and information that's gonna make Hunch work better and in a more accurate way. So, for example, if a user had a trust issue of when I ask Hunch a question, I'm not sure that it's gonna use the right tables, they can translate this fear or this trust issue into something that they can solve. They can go to the context management, create a directory of, I don't know, like plans analytics. They want to analyze the plans of their users, how much you're paying, and so on. And they say that any question related to plans is using table X, Y, and Z. And then when Hunch tries to answer a question regarding plans, the user can see a very clear indicator that the plans usage context piece is used. This means that it's going to use only the tables that plans usage was allowed kind of to use. So combining the way for the user to validate the code and like what happened behind the scenes, plus the steerability, eliminates like most of the initial, I would say, kind of, oh, but ChatGPT hallucinates all the time. Yeah, because ChatGPT is kind of generic tool and it's not directly, I don't know, specified for data usage. You have the context management where you can control what data is used and when. And following this pattern, it means that we add more and more context integrations. So we have data sources integrations, which is the integration that enables Hunch to query data, but we have context integrations that enable Hunch to query context in order to answer the question more reliably. So this means, for example, that we can integrate to the GitHub of the company. And when a user asks a question about onboarding, we know that the onboarding is 4 steps and the events that are captured are 100% like available because we can see the code that this is how the product is built. Or if a user tries to make sure that the data that flows into the plan's usage is an aggregation of downstream other tables in the pipeline, we can look on the ETL code and the DBT code to make sure that that's how the data flow is built through the company. So just to recap, I would say 100% visibility on the code and the steps, the visibility on the context, the ability to steer the context, and the ability to provide more context than a user would like imagine that Hunch could do, or even they could do. Lots of context in 2 minutes of talk.
No, that's great. That's great. That's really, really great to hear.
Yeah.
So you give them agency to become the people that fix it and not relying on some, waiting for you to fix it or whatever it is, because every situation is different. So it's really their own configuration of their context in there.
Yeah, no, I read about like a LinkedIn post that I really like that you have like AI magic tools and non-AI magic tools. So the AI magic tools are like the tools that get super viral and like everybody tries them out, but when they get to real companies with real infrastructure and environment, they kind of break up because the depths of solving the specific thing is not like the infrastructure is not good enough because the product was built to be catchy and viral. And then you have like the non-AI magic which are kind of, I would say, harder to sell, but when like requires more modification, usually more like B2B kind of product and so on. And when we're looking at Hunch, we're kind of like trying to be in the middle because we want to be this AI magic tool, but we're selling for data, like for product managers, but usually the data people are the ones that are gonna approve if this tool is really trustworthy enough.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of play of in between.
The magic AI tool I've been using like Replit and these like lovable these like vibe coding tools, and the question keeps coming up like product managers will be needing to prototype and be comfortable with these tools, but like to your point, has anybody got any of these things to production? Are these actually getting out in the wild and growing adoption, or are they prototype tools?
Yeah.
So
We'll have to do a series about that for sure. I'm already trying to think who we are going to get for. But it's a very, very good question. Absolutely.
Yep.
I just think they're like programmed maybe for another reason, right? They might be amazing multi-billion-dollar
Hmm.
companies just for prototyping. They shouldn't be for production grade like readiness, and it's
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
that's that, and that's eventually this is really all about their positioning because I think
Yeah.
their positioning is misleading, but it will be up to the users at the end to see what works and what doesn't work, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Um, what have you seen from your clients so far about the time that it takes them to stand it up to create like the the model that they actually trust? So, is it like I'll let you answer the question. I don't want to guess.
Yeah. You don't want to bias me. I would say there is like two phases. It's the first phase is a company connects their data source, which is pretty straightforward. Like we're not the first tool that is trying to connect to Snowflake and so on. So it's super short, and then they try this on a domain that they are like very aware of. They know how the data is built because they like struggled manually trying to do the stuff that Hunch does like for a few weeks or months. And then they get to a dashboard, a data app, maybe just even a simple answer in, I would say, like 15 minutes, 30 minutes. And then they're like, oh, wow, it works. Amazing. And then they are trying it on another domain that they're not very familiar with. And then it's like, wait a second, I can validate it. I need somebody that knows how it works in order to say if it's okay or not. And then I would say that the real adoption, like company wide, more than like some person that tries it out, is more like weeks. Of course, it's not weeks of like 100% working on Hunch, but we see like real activation of a company after like I would say more than 6, 7 sessions. That's where they get to a place that the context management is leveraged and utilized. They use the context integrations. They have built a data app or two, and they start to act upon it, which we
Yeah.
didn't talk even about, like acting upon the whole reason that they build it is to act upon it. But
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
yeah,
that's for another episode.
yeah. No, that makes for sure. That makes a lot of sense because every situation is different, and it's only the client that know their data and their context. An interesting thing could happen because always thinking as a product manager, and you know, when I was a young product manager, I didn't think about the context too much, but these days I'm thinking about the context a lot. And that's the context of where is the product behaving within the context of my users, and where I'm behaving in the context of building this product for my users and all that stuff. So there could be
Yeah.
some, I don't know if best practices to find the context. And then from those best practices to find the context, maybe there is a way to AI that process as well to help them identify what might be their context that they didn't even think about, and to make the that week's process much shorter.
Yeah, that's spot on. Like when you think of the data sets that exist in the world, there are like tons of data sets, but when you're, I don't know, a researcher, a postdoc that doing a research, you don't really find even 1% of what's available for you. The
Yeah,
funny fact is this happens in organizations as well. You can have this product manager or analyst or I don't know that even doesn't know that they have data that they need, maybe in another schema or another database, because this process is really hard to document. And this is like naturally a very hard thing. It's not something that I think that AI can really fix. It might help. But there was a wave of like data documentation products like around 2016, I think, that didn't work that well because the process is the issue. If you don't know how to structure the process of um, maintaining these models that you really need, is you're gonna get to chaos. And I would say, like, just circling back to the question you have asked about the adoption, like how fast you get to it. The funny thing is that when we started building Hunch, we thought that wow, like this is an AI agent, you're gonna build super complex research questions that you've got, like find me the most correlated factors and properties of users that impact their conversion rate and so on and blah blah blah. But you see like that 95%, even more, I guess, of the questions are like, how many users used my feature that I shipped last month? That's it.
Yeah.
Like
I think it,
it's
it
not,
goes, I don't know what it means, but it almost goes to the level of what people can do today because they don't have the tools to do it. And once they start using tools that will allow them to do the simple things, only then they will be start thinking about the more complex stuff.
yeah, and it really depends on the company. Like 100%. Yeah, when you go to, I don't know, B2C companies that are super data driven, the first thing they try is like finding correlations, running root cause
Mm.
analysis to find the factors
Mm,
that, like
mm,
finding the marketing campaign that they should
yeah,
pour more money into because it works well. And it's a tough, long analysis process that AI agents can already do. But when you come to a company that is not data driven, so yeah, they need to do this step by step in order
yeah,
to gradually
yeah, get
grow
more
this
sophisticated.
place.
Absolutely. No, that's great. I don't think I have right now any more questions. What about you, Matt?
Just one real quick. It may go back to the point on action, but as we see more tools become available from an AI perspective for product teams, product managers, where do you see like the product manager role? I get this question often, like where do we see the product management
Yeah.
role going in the future? I keep saying it's going to be more strategic value, business value, customer value, because a lot of the stuff is going to be unlocked through AI. So where do you kind of see that in the future?
Yeah, that's a tough and interesting question. I think that it's kind of 50% visionary and 50% like orchestrator.
Hmm.
Um, the orchestrator part is like figuring out how you translate the visionary stuff that you've thought about into practical way of building, monitoring, and orchestrating what you want to achieve.
Hmm.
And this, I think, is connected to the actions part that you've mentioned. Is I think that the product manager is the person in the company who needs to think about, okay, we've shipped this feature. We want to track it that way. We want to act on the insights that we've found in these ways. And if we get to a place where less coding is needed for these orchestration tasks, because like maybe the product itself still needs coding. So you're going to have like
Hmm.
software engineers who are going to build the production code and so on. But most of the internal orchestration part, things that you're trying to build in order to orchestrate your product is gonna be, I think, mostly vibe coded, vibe analyzed, vibe marketed.
Hmm. Yep.
Each vertical with its own vibe X word.
Yeah.
Uh, and the visionary is the thing that like you need to decide what you're building. Nobody's gonna decide it for you.
Right.
You can let AI decide it for you, but probably it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
So
I like
if
that.
I think the 10x PM's gonna be the ones who can dream big, break it down to orchestrated, well-defined tasks, and really having the skills and tools to act upon it.
I like that. I like the way you framed it. I was thinking of a maestro or that orchestrator that
Yeah,
you
what
see in
what do
front
you
of a
think?
synthesis. Yeah, I keep going from a strategic level. So was talking to a product manager recently. He was asking about like where do we see the role going? And I see strategic value. I see more business focused. Like you need to
Yeah,
understand the business you're building product for. And I don't think product managers or engineering like have always thought about it that way. It's like, hey, I want to build a cool tool, make customers happy, but like, is it going to serve the business value? Is it going to drive revenue and affect the bottom line? So that's where I think about it going.
super interesting. I think that like you have these companies that have like they have product managers and there are product managers that working on strategy and business and growth and like
Hmm.
more business oriented, and then these product managers that execute, I would say.
We
Yeah.
call them
um
product owners.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So that, yeah, the product managers really should focus on strategy, etc. But that's where sometimes companies are like dividing those roles, like the strategy and tactics, between these two type of roles in many places.
Mm-hmm.
so how did you call the ones that execute? Product owners?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. No, this is really, really interesting, and I really looking forward to see where it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll keep you posted. Thank you so much for having me. I had the pleasure of sharing our story and having all these great questions that you've asked.
Yeah.
Our
Um,
pleasure.
Yeah. It's been great to have you, Matan. Thank you so much for coming on the
Yeah.
show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Great. Where can people reach out to you?
LinkedIn. I'm like responding in 5 minutes, I think.
Okay.
That's good SLA.
Okay, okay. Don't give too many expectations because you're a busy founder, but that's great to hear. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matan. Thank you to all the listeners. Thank you, Moshe. We'll talk to everybody next time. Take care.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to all the listeners. We really appreciate the feedback and support. Please leave us a review to help others find the show on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else you're listening to the show.